Welcome to Beth's Happy Home. I bet some of you have a chair of shame like I have in my study here. And this is an office chair. It's not that old, but it did not last very well. But the good news is it's structurally completely sound and it's actually quite comfortable. But it is in horrible condition. Let me show you. This is the duct tape that I taped across the top because it was all peeling up here. And then down here, the finish is the naga hide, or the fake leather, is completely peeling off. And then right here, this is peeling away from the seam. And then this duct tape is also covering a completely peeled and messed up upholstery. So I'm going to show you how to turn this hideous piece of junk into something really nice. Okay, step one is going to be to take these plugs off. They're just cosmetic and they cover up these little Allen bolts that hold on this arm, and I want to take this arm off. So we'll just put the little Allen wrench into the bolt and unscrew all of these. So it's just these arms that are holding this back in place. So I'll take off the other arm and then the back will be free. Alright, now the back is free because I took the arms off. They're there to the right. The next step is to take the pedestal off of the seat. And it's done by just unfastening these 4 bolts. There's one here, one here, one here, and one here. Right, the pedestal is free. Now, I'm going to peel off all of this old tape. And I liked it because, for one thing, it's a leather look fabric. And it has a lot of stretch and it has a lot of body because it has this nice backing on it. And the stretch will be very comfortable to sit on. And so I decided it's okay to have something a little bit sedate for my study where I go to be intellectual. So this is how we're going to put it together. So since I want the right side of the fabric to be on that side of the chair seat, I'll put it like this. Now, I'm going to measure it so that this just wraps up to this line right here. Now, this original finish is kept on just with a staple about every 1.5 inches. And so all I'm going to do is wrap this a little bit beyond those staples so that I'm not hitting them with my stapler, and staple it into place. So I'll do the front, and then I'll do the sides, and then I will do the bottom part. But before I do that, it'll make it a lot easier if I actually cut the piece before I start stapling. So I'll get this really straight so that I know I have plenty, but I don't want to waste it, so I will just measure it. So I have enough, but not too much. And that isn't enough right there. It needs to come right up over this staple line. Okay, so that's going to be about the right position from this direction. That's about right. From the other direction, the nice thing also about using this fabric that doesn't have any particular pattern, it has a completely random print on it, is that if it's a little bit crooked, it's not going to show at all. And then on this side, I'm going to actually use a pen and mark the place that I want to cut the fabric, because when you're cutting on something that isn't a straight line, it's easy to undercut it. So I'm going to make a mark And I'll do it by wrapping the fabric around the seat. I can feel those staples right along there. So I'm going to make a mark. I'll cut that and then I'll wrap the bottom part so that I get that straight too. It makes sense to mark it first. And now we'll flip this part up this way. And get it straight so that it actually lines up, although this is going to fold up, so it's not going to matter that it's perfectly straight, but you don't want it too off center. Feel for those little dents where the staples go, and mark it again. My scissors out. Now just to check it, this is where the cutting line is. When I wrap it, you can see there's going to be plenty of allowance left for me to staple that into place. Just cut right along that line you made. You center your piece of fabric on your chair seat. Now obviously this is going to work for any kind of a chair pad or chair seat that you're using, like a dining room table or anything where you can actually get the seat loose from the chair itself. It's the easiest thing in the world to reupholster it. Here are the original staples. I don't want to hit those with my new staples, and so I'm just going to go a little bit beyond that, and I'm going to go about 1/8 of an inch, put the edge of the staple gun about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric. Giving it a little bit of a stretch as I do it. Keeping it nice and flat. You don't want it curling up like this. So that's why you're doing it nice and close to the edge. You want to pull it snug, but not too tight. Now remember, this is the side that faces the floor. And the pedestal mounts right here. So this is not going to be visible when it's flipped over and put onto the pedestal. Okay, how is that looking? Okay, this is pretty good. You can smooth it out and it makes a nice smooth seat. And so when I pull it this way, it's going to look nice and smooth. So this is the progress. You can see this is where the bum goes right here, but the fabric will stretch nicely into that. And so now all that you do for the corners is to kind of gather them up. You probably are going to want to kind of fold it so that it has a fold on one side and a fold on the other side, and then it makes it nice and neat. So that's going to be nice and neat right there. But you've got this little tail sticking up, which you do not want. So you're going to take that and trim it as close as you can get it to the staples. I'm going to put another staple right there. Hold that in place. Look at how nice and tidy and super easy. It doesn't take any particular skill to do this. This side needs its second row of staples. Make sure there's no wrinkles. I'm gonna fold it on this side and fold it on this side, and then just pull up the slack. Kind of tease it into just one major fold on each side. Pull them really snug with your fingers. It looks pretty tidy. Pleased with it. That way you still have the relatively finished looking bottom on this chair. So this chair bottom, the seat, is ready to be reapplied to the pedestal. Now we'll work on this. Now, for the back of this chair, I'm going to create an envelope, and it's just going to slip over the back, and then I will hand stitch it closed at the bottom. And the fabric is stretchy enough that it should accommodate the shape of the back that's built into the shape of the chair. I'm going to match this edge right here and cut off this tab right here. Okay, I'm going to double check again just to be sure. Okay, that's going to be big enough to slip this chair into. What I will probably do after I slip it on, it's going to be too big, and so then I will go back and trim it off. So I'm going to go put right sides together, stitch this into an envelope with an open bottom, and then I'll be right back. Okay, now I've got this envelope made. The fabric is still wrong side out, so I'm going to slip this back into my envelope, and I want the bottom of the chair at the bottom of the envelope because that's the part that I'm going to hand stitch that will be facing the ground. It's not going to show. But what I need to do before I get to that part, before I stitch it on, you can see the fit is loose as I predicted, and now I want to take my marker and pull it good and tight, and then I'm going to just pinch out and see how much I need to tighten it. So it looks like about 1 inch on each side will be enough. Just very loosely give it a mark. But up here, it actually fits fairly well, so I'm going to want to taper it. So, and it's easier to do it this way than to try to match that curve when it's off of the, when you're just doing it by measurements alone. Up here, you've got the curve of the chair, but you've got these rabbit ears, and they don't look very nice. So right here is where it meets, and it's about the right tension. So I will tighten that just a little bit right here, but then curve it in. So if you fold it, you'll be able to tell where you want it to go. And we'll do the same thing over here. And I'll take that to my sewing machine, restitch this envelope, and come try it on again. Okay, I restitched the edges of this envelope that I'm working on for the back, and it fits pretty well right here at the narrowest point. It can probably come in about 1/4 inch on each side, but right here there's a little bit of a balloon. So I'm going to mark this. And I've already checked to make sure that this marker does not show through from the other side. But it's getting closer. And rather than take elaborate measurements to try to get it perfect on the first try, you just cut it a little bit big and then trim it down as you go. I'll do the same thing over here, making sure not to pull it because I don't want to pull it in each direction and then take off too much. Same right here. Blend it in. All right, we'll stitch it again. See how it goes. I think it can stand to be brought in all the way. All right, after the third stitching, this fits really well all along here. It's still inside out, obviously, because once I get it a perfect fit, I'm going to trim this off and then re-stitch it again with a really tight stitch so that it'll be extra strong. But there's one little place up here where it's still kind of bunchy, and I don't like that. So I'm going to have my way with it one more time with the marker and just tighten it up. In fact, it needs to be even tighter than I'm marking it, like this. And then pinch it all the way out to the middle almost. Same thing over here. This is where the actual stitching is, right here. And so I'll tighten it just a tad around the corner. It's going to have a few little wrinkles there in the corner, but I don't think that's going to be unattractive. And then just slant it out like this. I will trim off all the rest of this. Doesn't matter if I trim this part that's out well outside the seam allowance now. But once I do that, it fits well down here. And then I'm just going to hand stitch it over the bottom like that. And it will be done. Alrighty, I think I've got this pretty close. So, close enough actually. And so I went ahead and trimmed off the seam allowance that had gotten very wide and double stitched it along there. I've turned it right side out, and then I pressed it because it did have some creases from the bolt on it. And now it's going to be tight getting it across this part because this part is narrower than this. So I'm going to kind of work it on and then just carefully stretch it over and try to keep the seam centered on the side. So I want the seam to run right here, and it's easiest if you slip it on without twisting it. A little bit twisted, so I will untwist it. And then, so there's a little bit of wrinkling up here because it's still loose because I haven't stitched it at the bottom yet. Alright, to stitch this edge closed, I'm going to use this upholstery thread. It's a much heavier thread than regular sewing thread, and 1 or 2 thicknesses of it ought to be plenty strong. And I also have an upholstery needle because it has a bigger eye. So I'm going to fold this down, fold this one up. Thought I'd show you this partway through the process. I decided to baste this one that I'm not going to fold over into place first. So this is the back. Baste it into place. It's nice and smooth. All right, this chair back is all done. You can see there's a little bit of wrinkles up here, but I don't really mind there being a little bit of leeway up here because when you lean on this, it's going to put a little bit of stress on on the chair, and it will just make sure that those seams don't pop. This is what the bottom looks like now that it's stitched. You've got the corners that are nice and neat, and then this is just hand stitched. Even though the stitching shows a little bit, I didn't blind stitch it, I just whip stitched it. It's going onto the chair like this, and so it will never be visible. So I'm going to reassemble this now and see how it looks all finished. Now this arm goes on right like that, but first I need to make a little puncture for these little receiving threads that are going to receive the bolts. So even though the puncture doesn't even show, the bolts should be able to go through it. All right, did you pick up on the major mistake that I made? If you haven't picked up on it, I will show you now. And I didn't realize until I was finished, or finishing and reassembling it, what I'd done. But there's nothing wrong with the seat, and the back looks fine from here, but I accidentally put the seam that I stitched by hand on the top instead of the bottom. I mixed up the top and the bottom of the back because it narrows at the top, and I didn't realize it. I thought that the wider part was, this part was like a pillow, but actually it's back support. So this isn't perfect, not ideal, but it's not too bad, and I'm not gonna mess with it. I'm gonna just leave it the way it is. And I don't think it'll be one of those things that I notice once we get in the habit of using it. But overall, I'm very pleased with it. The fabric is very comfortable to sit in, and I think we're going to enjoy it. Thanks for watching.